the quiet stillness before dawn, the small bakery rests in a gentle hush, as if the world itself has paused to breathe. Inside, a lone woman stands beside a worn wooden table, her movements slow and deliberate. She reaches for a sack of flour, lifting it carefully, as a faint dust rises into the dim air. The room is softly lit by the fading glow of embers from the stone oven, casting warm shadows that dance along the aged walls. Nothing feels rushed here. Every motion carries a sense of calm repetition, as though she has done this countless times before, and yet each moment feels just as quiet, just as meaningful. Outside, the world has not yet awakened, and within these walls, time seems to move differently, slower, softer, more forgiving. The gentle creak of wood beneath her feet, the soft rustle of cloth, and the quiet presence of her work create a rhythm that asks for nothing, demands nothing, only invites you to drift gently along with it. The woman gently sets the sack of flour down, her hands moving with quiet familiarity as she opens it and scoops a portion into a wooden bowl. A soft cloud of flour lifts into the air, catching the dim glow of the oven light before settling slowly back onto the table. She pauses for a moment, as if listening to the silence, to the stillness, to the subtle rhythm of her own breathing. Then, reaching for a clay jug, she tilts it carefully, letting a thin stream of water flow into the flour. The sound is soft, almost like a whisper, blending into the calm atmosphere of the room. Nothing is hurried, nothing is forced. Each action unfolds naturally, one after another, like a quiet ritual repeated across countless mornings. The wooden walls hold this stillness, the gentle warmth of the oven wrapping around everything like a soft embrace. Outside remains distant and quiet, while inside, the slow creation of something simple continues, steady and unbroken, inviting a sense of peace that lingers gently in every corner. Her fingers move slowly through the mixture, folding the flour and water together with calm, steady motions. The texture begins to change beneath her hands, softening and gathering into something more unified, more alive. She presses gently, then folds again, repeating the motion with a rhythm that feels almost meditative. The wooden table holds the quiet weight of her work, its surface dusted lightly with flour, marked by years of the same careful process. There is no sound beyond the soft movement of her hands and the faint crackle from the oven behind her. Time stretches here, unmeasured and unhurried, as if each moment is allowed to fully exist before giving way to the next. Her breathing remains slow and even, matching the pace of her work. Outside, the first hints of morning remain distant, barely touching the edges of the world. Inside, the gentle act of kneading continues, steady and calm, creating a quiet sense of comfort that settles deeply into the stillness around her. The dough begins to take shape beneath her hands, no longer loose or scattered, but gathered into a soft, smooth form. She presses it forward with the heel of her palm, then folds it back toward herself, repeating the motion slowly and without pause. Each movement is gentle, deliberate, as though guided by memory rather than thought. A faint warmth lingers in the room, carried from the oven, wrapping softly around her and the space she works in. The air feels still, undisturbed, holding the quiet rhythm of her actions. She pauses briefly, letting her hands rest on the dough, feeling its texture, its softness, before continuing again. There is no urgency here, no need to rush. The world outside remains distant, almost forgotten, while inside, this simple act unfolds with calm intention. The slow kneading continues, steady and unbroken, like a quiet pulse within the silence, grounding everything in a peaceful, unchanging moment. She lifts the dough gently, turning it in her hands before placing it back onto the wooden table. Its surface is now smooth and elastic, shaped by her steady rhythm. With slow care, she begins forming it into a rounded loaf, tucking the edges underneath with practiced ease. A faint line of light starts to appear through the small window, hinting at the coming morning, though the bakery still feels wrapped in quiet shadow. The oven behind her gives off a soft, steady warmth, its glow flickering gently against the walls. She pauses once more, her hands resting lightly on the formed dough, as if allowing it to settle, to rest, just as she does. The stillness deepens, filling every corner of the room. Nothing interrupts this moment. No sudden movement, no sharp sound. Only the quiet presence of her work and the slow passage of time. It is in this calm repetition, this gentle care, that everything feels balanced, simple, and at peace. She gently places the shaped loaf aside and reaches for another portion of dough, repeating the same quiet process with steady hands. Each piece is given the same care, the same unhurried attention, as if time itself has softened within these walls. The faint morning light grows slightly stronger, brushing the edges of the wooden table and catching the fine dusting of flour scattered across its surface. She works without distraction, her movements smooth and continuous, guided by a rhythm that feels both familiar and comforting. The soft crackle from the oven continues in the background, a quiet reminder of warmth and patience. There's no need to think ahead, no need to rush forward. Everything exists in this single moment. The shaping of dough, the gentle rise of light, the calm presence of her breath. One by one, the loaves take form, resting quietly on the table, as the peaceful stillness of the bakery continues to hold everything in a slow, steady embrace. She finishes shaping the last piece of dough and gently wipes her hands against her apron, leaving faint traces of flour behind. The loaves rest quietly on the wooden surface, each one evenly spaced, each one carrying the same careful attention. She reaches for a clean cloth and slowly drapes it over them, the fabric falling softly and settling into place. Beneath it, the dough begins its silent rest, rising slowly in the warmth of the room. The bakery feels even more still now, as if everything has softened into a deeper calm. She steps back slightly, her gaze resting on the covered loaves, watching without expectation. The light from the window continues to grow, pale and gentle, blending with the warm glow of the oven. No sound breaks the silence, no movement disturbs the peace. It is a moment of quiet waiting where nothing needs to happen quickly, and everything is allowed to unfold in its own time. The woman moves slowly across the bakery, her steps soft against the wooden floor, as if careful not to disturb the quiet that fills the room. She reaches the small window and pauses, resting her hand lightly on the frame. Outside, the world is beginning to awaken, but only just. There is no noise yet, only a faint shift in light as the sky turns gently from darkness to a pale morning glow. She stands there for a moment, not searching for anything, simply observing the stillness beyond the glass. Then, with the same calm presence, she turns back toward her work. The covered dough rests undisturbed, the oven continues its quiet warmth, and the air remains soft and still. Everything feels balanced, untouched by hurry or demand. She takes a slow breath, the kind that settles deeply, and lets it go just as gently, allowing the calm of the space to remain unbroken, steady and serene. She walks back toward the wooden table, her movements slow and familiar, as if guided by the quiet rhythm of the room itself. The cloth covering the dough remains still, rising gently beneath, almost unnoticed. She places her hand lightly on the table, feeling its worn surface. the history held within its grain. For a moment, she does nothing more. The oven behind her gives a soft crackle, its warmth steady and comforting. The light from the window has grown slightly brighter now, spreading softly across the floor and touching the edges of the table. Still, nothing feels rushed. She closes her eyes briefly, not in sleep, but in rest, allowing the calm to settle deeper within her. When she opens them again, everything is just as it was, quiet, steady, unchanged. The slow passage of time continues without interruption, holding the space in a gentle stillness that asks for nothing, only to be quietly experienced. After a quiet pause, she gently lifts the edge of the cloth, just enough to glance at the dough beneath. It has risen softly, expanding in silence, shaped by time and warmth rather than effort. She lowers the cloth again with care, letting it fall back into place without disturbance. Her hands remain still for a moment, resting lightly on the fabric, as if acknowledging the quiet work being done beneath it. The bakery remains wrapped in calm, the air warm and undisturbed. A subtle brightness now fills the room as morning continues to arrive, though it does so gently, without urgency. She steps back once more, giving the dough its space, its time. There is a quiet understanding in her movements, a patience that does not need to be spoken. Everything unfolds as it should, at its own pace. And within this steady rhythm, the world feels distant, softened, leaving only this simple, peaceful moment to quietly continue. She slowly turns away from the table and walks toward the oven, her steps quiet and unhurried. The soft glow from within flickers gently, casting warm, shifting patterns across the stone surface. She kneels slightly and opens the oven door just a little, allowing a wave of warmth to spill into the room. For a moment, she simply watches the fire, its steady movement calm and mesmerizing. The sound is soft, almost like a distant whisper, blending seamlessly with the stillness of the bakery. She does not rush to adjust anything. Instead, she remains there, present in the moment, letting the warmth settle around her. After a pause, she reaches forward and carefully nudges a piece of wood deeper into the fire, ensuring it continues to burn evenly. Then, just as gently, she closes the oven door again, leaving only the faint glow behind. The quiet returns fully, undisturbed, as she rises slowly, carrying that same calm back into the room. She stands quietly for a moment after closing the oven, her hand resting lightly against the warm stone as if holding on to its gentle heat. The warmth lingers, steady and reassuring, spreading softly through the still air of the bakery. Slowly, she turns and walks back toward the table, her movements calm and unbroken. The cloth-covered dough rests just as before, rising in silence, undisturbed by time or attention. She reaches out and smooths the edge of the cloth, a small, careful gesture that carries no urgency, only quiet presence. The morning light has now grown a little stronger, filling more of the room, yet it remains soft, never harsh. Shadows fade gently rather than disappear. She pauses beside the table, standing still once more, allowing everything to remain as it is. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to be hurried. The peaceful rhythm continues, steady and slow, holding the moment in a calm that feels endless. The woman gently pulls the cloth back once more, revealing the dough now softer and fuller, quietly transformed by time. She does not rush. Her fingers press lightly into the surface, leaving a small impression that slowly rises back, as if breathing. Satisfied, she begins to divide the dough into smaller portions, using calm and measured movements. Each piece is lifted, turned, and placed down with care, forming a quiet pattern across the wooden table. The air remains still, the only motion coming from her hands and the faint flicker of light in the room. Outside, morning has begun, but it feels distant, as though it belongs to another place entirely. Here, inside the bakery, everything continues at its own gentle pace. She shapes each portion slowly, repeating the same soft motion again and again, creating a rhythm that is steady, predictable, and deeply calming. Nothing breaks the silence, nothing disturbs the flow. Only the quiet work continues, unhurried and whole. She continues shaping each portion of dough, her hands moving in a slow and steady rhythm that never breaks. Each piece is rolled gently, then tucked and turned until it forms a smooth, even surface. She places them one by one onto the wooden board, leaving small spaces between each, allowing them room to rest and rise again. The repetition of her actions feels calming, almost like a quiet pattern unfolding over time. The morning light now fills more of the bakery, soft and pale, touching the edges of the table and the loaves without disturbing their stillness. The oven behind her continues to hold its warmth, steady and patient. She pauses briefly, looking over her work, not with urgency, but with quiet awareness. Everything is as it should be. The dough rests, the air remains still, and the slow passage of time continues, gentle and uninterrupted, wrapping the space in a peaceful calm that lingers without end. She reaches for another clean cloth and slowly spreads it over the newly shaped pieces, letting it fall softly and evenly across them. The fabric settles with a quiet stillness, covering each piece without pressure, allowing them to rest undisturbed. Her hands linger for a moment on the cloth, gently smoothing its surface, as if ensuring everything beneath remains calm and protected. The room feels warmer now, not just from the oven, but from the quiet rhythm that continues without interruption. Light from the window stretches further across the floor, pale and gentle, blending seamlessly with the soft shadows that remain. She steps back again, her movements slow and deliberate, creating space for the dough to rise in its own time. There is no need to check again, no need to hurry forward. Everything unfolds naturally, guided by patience. The bakery holds this moment quietly, as time moves forward in the same steady, peaceful flow. She turns away from the table once more, moving slowly across the quiet bakery, her footsteps soft against the wooden floor. There is no sound beyond the faint creak beneath her feet and the distant, gentle crackle from the oven. She reaches a small wooden shelf and pauses, her fingers lightly tracing the edge before resting there. For a moment, she simply stands, doing nothing, allowing the stillness to settle deeper around her. The light from the window has now spread fully across the room, though it remains soft and muted, never harsh or demanding. Dust particles drift lazily through the air, visible only when they catch the light, moving slowly as if time itself has softened. She takes a slow breath in, then lets it go just as gently. Nothing calls for her attention. Nothing interrupts the calm. The dough rests, the warmth holds, and the quiet presence of the morning continues to unfold in a steady, peaceful rhythm. After a quiet pause, she gently takes a small clay jar from the shelf, holding it with both hands as if it carries something delicate. She opens it slowly, releasing a faint, earthy aroma that blends softly into the air of the bakery. Without haste, she brings it closer, pausing for a moment as if simply acknowledging its presence rather than using it immediately. Then, with calm precision, she sets it down beside the table. Her movements remain steady, unbroken, guided by the same quiet rhythm that fills the room. The covered dough rests nearby, rising unseen beneath the cloth, while the warmth from the oven continues to spread gently through the space. Light now rests fully across the wooden surfaces, yet everything still feels soft, untouched by urgency. She stands there for a moment longer, hands relaxed at her sides, allowing the stillness to remain complete as the slow, peaceful flow of the morning continues without interruption. She returns to the table and rests her fingertips lightly on the cloth, feeling the gentle rise beneath it without uncovering it this time. The warmth of the room has deepened, holding a quiet consistency that never shifts too quickly. Slowly, she lifts her hand and adjusts the edge of the fabric, a small movement done with care, ensuring everything remains undisturbed. The clay jar sits nearby, unopened again, simply present as part of the space. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing asks for attention. The oven continues its soft, steady crackle, and the light from the window settles calmly across the floor, no longer growing, only existing. She stands there in stillness, her posture relaxed, her breathing slow and even. Time moves gently forward, but without pressure, without urgency. In this quiet moment, everything feels balanced, held together by the simple rhythm of waiting as the dough continues its silent transformation beneath the cloth. After a long, quiet pause, she gently lifts the cloth once again, this time revealing the dough that has now risen more fully, soft and expanded in silence. Her fingers press lightly into one piece, testing its readiness with a calm, practiced touch. The dough responds slowly, holding the gentle mark before easing back into shape. She nods almost imperceptibly, not in decision, but in quiet understanding. One by one, she lifts the pieces and places them onto a wooden peel, her movements careful and steady. The board feels warm beneath her hands, carrying the heat of the room. The oven waits nearby, its presence constant and patient. No sudden motion breaks the flow, no sound interrupts the stillness. Each step follows the last in a slow, deliberate rhythm, as if guided by something deeper than thought. The morning has fully arrived, yet inside the bakery, everything remains soft, calm, and unhurried, held gently within this quiet, continuous moment. She turns slowly toward the oven, holding the wooden peel with steady hands, each movement calm and controlled. The oven door opens with a soft motion, releasing a gentle wave of warmth that spreads quietly through the room. Inside, the fire glows steadily, its light flickering against the stone interior. Without rushing, she slides the first piece of dough into the oven, guiding it carefully into place. Then another follows, and another, each one set down with the same quiet precision. The warmth surrounds her, yet it never overwhelms, remaining soft and constant. Once all the pieces are inside, she pauses briefly, looking into the oven as if marking the moment. Then she closes the door slowly, sealing in the heat and the quiet transformation now beginning within. The sound fades back into stillness. She stands there for a moment longer, her hand resting lightly against the warm surface. As the calm rhythm of the bakery continues without interruption, she remains beside the oven, her hand still resting gently against the warm stone, feeling the steady heat beneath her palm. There is no need to move quickly now. Everything that needed to be done has already been set in motion. Inside the oven, the dough begins its quiet transformation, unseen but understood. She slowly lowers her hand and steps back, her movements soft and unhurried. The bakery feels deeply still again, as if holding its breath in a calm, patient pause. The light from the window now fills the room completely, yet it remains gentle, never sharp. Dust drifts quietly through the air, moving so slowly it almost seems suspended in time. She takes a seat on the wooden stool nearby, her posture relaxed, her hands resting loosely in her lap. The only sound is the faint crackle from within the oven, a soft reminder that something is happening, even within this stillness, as time continues to pass in a slow and peaceful flow. She sits quietly on the stool, her gaze resting softly toward the oven, though not fixed on anything in particular. Her breathing is slow and even, rising and falling in a gentle rhythm that matches the stillness around her. The warmth from the oven reaches her where she sits, wrapping around her like a soft, steady presence. Nothing calls for her attention, nothing asks her to move. The dough bakes silently behind the closed door, its change hidden yet certain. She lowers her eyes slightly, not in sleep, but in a kind of restful awareness, allowing the quiet to deepen further. The wooden walls, the table, the soft light, all remain unchanged, holding the same calm as before. Time feels distant here, stretched and softened, losing its urgency. She remains still, her hands resting loosely, as if anchored in this moment. The faint crackle continues, steady and low, blending into the silence as everything drifts gently forward. She slowly lifts her gaze again, not out of urgency, but as part of the same quiet rhythm that guides her every movement. The oven remains closed, its warmth steady, its presence calm and reassuring. She listens, not for any specific sound, but to the soft continuity of the space, the faint crackle within the oven, the subtle stillness of the room. Her hands rest gently on her lap, unmoving, as if time itself has softened around her. The light has settled fully now, no longer changing, only existing in a pale, even glow that fills the bakery. Nothing feels new. Nothing feels old. Everything simply is. She shifts slightly on the stool, a small, natural movement, then becomes still again. The moment stretches quietly, without interruption, without demand. Inside the oven, the unseen transformation continues, while outside remains distant and unimportant. Here, only calm remains, steady and unbroken, carrying her gently through the slow passage of time. After some time, she gently rises from the stool, her movement slow and natural, as if guided by the quiet passage of moments rather than any clock. She walks toward the oven once more, her steps soft against the wooden floor. Standing before it, she places her hand lightly on the surface, feeling the steady warmth that has not changed. There is a calm understanding in her posture, a quiet awareness of the process unfolding within. She does not open the door yet. Instead, she simply stands there, present, allowing the warmth and stillness to settle around her again. The bakery remains silent, undisturbed, holding its peaceful rhythm. Light continues to rest gently across the room, touching every surface without urgency. She breathes slowly, evenly, matching the calm that surrounds her. Nothing feels rushed, nothing feels delayed. Everything exists in its own time, and she remains within it, steady and patient, as the unseen baking continues quietly behind the closed oven door. After a long, quiet moment, she gently opens the oven door, allowing a soft wave of warmth to drift outward into the still air of the bakery. Inside, the loaves have begun to change, their surfaces slowly firming, taking on a faint, golden tone. She does not rush to touch them. Instead, she simply watches, her gaze calm and steady, as if giving space to the quiet process unfolding within. The fire glows softly, its light flickering against the curved stone interior. There is no sudden movement, no sharp sound, only the gentle presence of heat and time working together. After a few moments, she carefully closes the oven door again, sealing the warmth back inside. Her hand lingers briefly on the handle before she steps away. The bakery returns to its quiet stillness, unchanged and undisturbed. Everything continues as it should, slowly, patiently, with nothing forced and nothing left behind. She steps back from the oven and returns to the center of the bakery, her movements slow and unbroken. The warmth lingers behind her, steady and quiet, while the rest of the room remains calm and still. She pauses beside the wooden table, resting her fingertips lightly on its surface, feeling the familiar texture beneath her hand. Nothing calls for her attention now. The bread continues to bake in silence, its transformation hidden behind the closed oven door. She takes a slow breath, allowing it to settle deeply before releasing it just as gently. The light in the room remains soft and even, no longer shifting, simply present. Dust moves lazily through the air, almost unmoving. She stands there without hurry, without thought of what comes next. The moment holds itself, complete and unchanging. Within this quiet space, everything continues at its own pace, guided only by time and patience, as the peaceful rhythm of the bakery carries on. She slowly walks toward the small window again, her steps soft and measured, barely making a sound against the wooden floor. The morning outside has fully arrived now, though it remains quiet and distant, untouched by the calm within the bakery. She places her hand lightly against the frame, feeling the cool contrast of the outside air through the thin glass. For a moment, she simply stands there, her gaze unfocused, not searching, not waiting, only present. Behind her, the oven continues its steady work, unseen but constant. The warmth and the stillness coexist, neither interrupting the other. After a quiet pause, she turns gently back toward the room, her movements unchanged, flowing with the same calm rhythm. Nothing has shifted. Nothing has been disturbed. The bread bakes, the air remains still, and time continues its slow, quiet passage, holding everything in a peaceful balance that neither rushes forward nor falls behind. She moves back toward the table once more, her presence soft and unhurried, as if carried by the same quiet rhythm that fills the bakery. Her hand brushes lightly across the wooden surface, tracing familiar lines and worn edges shaped by years of use. Nothing has changed, yet everything feels gently alive within its stillness. The oven continues its steady warmth behind her, the bread inside slowly nearing its final form. She pauses, standing in the center of the room, allowing the calm to settle once again. The light remains soft, resting evenly across the floor and walls, no longer shifting, only existing. She takes another slow breath, deep and quiet, then releases it just as gently. There is no need to check the oven yet, no need to move ahead of time. Everything unfolds as it should. The peaceful rhythm continues, unbroken and steady, holding the moment in a calm that feels endless and complete. After another quiet stretch of time, she slowly turns toward the oven again, her movement calm and expected, as if guided by an inner sense rather than urgency. She steps closer and rests her hand lightly against the warm surface, feeling the steady heat that has remained constant. This time, after a brief pause, she opens the oven door slightly. A gentle wave of warmth escapes, carrying with it a faint, comforting aroma. The loaves inside have deepened in color, their surfaces now more golden, quietly nearing completion. She watches without hurry, allowing the moment to unfold fully before her. There is no need to rush the process, No need to interfere. After a few calm breaths, she closes the door again, sealing the warmth inside once more. The bakery returns to its steady stillness, unchanged. She steps back slowly, her movements soft and deliberate, as the quiet rhythm continues, holding everything in a peaceful and unbroken flow. She steps away from the oven once more, her movements slow and steady, as if nothing in the world could disturb this gentle rhythm. The warmth lingers behind her, constant and reassuring, while the rest of the bakery remains wrapped in calm stillness. She returns to the wooden stool and sits down quietly, her posture relaxed, her hands resting loosely in her lap. There is nothing left to prepare, nothing left to arrange. Only waiting remains, soft and unhurried. The light in the room has settled into a quiet balance, neither growing nor fading, simply present. The faint crackle from the oven continues, steady and low, blending into the silence rather than breaking it. She lowers her gaze slightly, not in sleep, but in rest, allowing the calm to deepen once again. Time moves forward, but without urgency, without pressure. Everything continues as it should, slowly and peacefully, as the bread nears its quiet completion within the warmth of the oven. After resting for a while, she slowly opens her eyes and lifts her head, her movements gentle and unhurried. The bakery remains just as quiet as before, unchanged, as if time itself has moved softly without leaving a trace. She rises from the stool and walks toward the oven again, drawn by the steady warmth that continues to fill the space. Standing before it, she places her hand against the surface, feeling the familiar heat beneath her palm. This time, she waits a little longer, as if listening not with her ears, but with quiet awareness. The bread inside is nearly ready, though unseen. She takes a slow breath, then gently opens the oven door. The warmth flows outward once more, carrying a deeper, richer aroma now. She watches quietly, her gaze calm and steady, allowing the moment to unfold without interruption. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. The process nears its end, guided only by time and patience. She gently reaches inside the oven, her movements careful and unhurried, and slowly pulls one loaf closer to the opening. The surface is now fully golden, lightly crisp, carrying the quiet mark of heat and time. She does not remove it yet. Instead, she pauses, observing it closely, allowing the warmth to rise around her hands. The soft crackle of the crust settling blends gently into the silence of the bakery. After a moment, she carefully slides the loaf back into place and closes the oven door once more. Nothing feels rushed, not even now. The process is nearly complete, yet it continues at the same calm pace as before. She steps back slowly, her hand resting briefly against the warm stone, as if acknowledging the final moments of transformation. The room remains still, the light soft and even, and the quiet rhythm carries on, holding everything gently as the bread reaches its perfect, unhurried finish. She remains near the oven, standing quietly as the final moments pass, her presence calm and steady. The warmth continues to radiate softly, filling the bakery with a gentle, comforting heat. After a brief pause, she opens the oven door once more, this time with a quiet certainty. One by one, she carefully lifts the loaves out, placing them onto the wooden table. Each loaf carries a soft golden crust, its surface slightly textured, shaped by time and patience. A faint sound emerges as they settle, the crust cooling in the open air. She does not rush to move them further. Instead, she lets them rest, just as everything else has been allowed to rest throughout the morning. The oven door is closed gently behind her, the fire within now less important than what it has already given. The bakery remains still, unchanged, as the fresh bread cools slowly, releasing a quiet warmth into the calm, unbroken space. The loaves rest quietly on the wooden table, their warmth slowly easing into the still air of the bakery. She stands nearby, her hands relaxed at her sides, watching without any need to act. A faint, gentle sound comes from the bread as it cools, a soft settling that blends naturally into the silence. She reaches out and lightly touches one loaf, not to move it, but simply to feel its warmth, its presence. The surface is firm yet soft beneath her fingers, carrying the quiet result of everything that has come before. She withdraws her hand slowly and steps back again, allowing the bread to rest undisturbed. The light in the room remains calm and even, touching the loaves with a soft glow. Nothing interrupts the moment. Nothing calls her away. Everything has reached a quiet balance now, where the work is done, and only stillness remains, holding the space in a peaceful and gentle calm. She gently begins arranging the loaves across the wooden table, spacing them with quiet care so that each one has room to cool. Her movements remain slow and deliberate, never hurried, as if the rhythm of the morning still guides her hands. The warmth from the bread rises softly into the air, blending with the lingering heat of the oven. She pauses between each placement, allowing a brief moment of stillness before moving the next. Nothing feels repetitive in a restless way. Instead, each action carries a calm sense of completion. The light rests gently across the loaves, highlighting their soft golden surfaces without sharp contrast. She steps back slightly, observing the arrangement, not to adjust, but simply to acknowledge what is already complete. The bakery holds this quiet moment, unchanged and undisturbed, as the warmth slowly fades and the peaceful rhythm continues, steady and soft, with nothing left to hurry and nothing left undone. She slowly walks toward the door of the bakery, her steps quiet and unhurried, as if carried by the same gentle rhythm that has filled the entire morning. The loaves remain behind her on the table, resting and cooling in calm stillness. She reaches the wooden door and places her hand lightly against it, pausing for a moment without opening it yet. Outside, the day has fully begun, though no sound reaches inside. The contrast between the outer world and the quiet within feels soft, not sharp, as if both exist without disturbing each other. She remains still, her hand resting on the wood, her breathing slow and even. Nothing urges her forward. Nothing pulls her back. After a quiet pause, she gently opens the door just slightly, allowing a thin line of light and fresh air to enter, blending subtly with the warmth and stillness of the bakery. She opens the door a little wider, allowing more of the soft morning light to enter the bakery. The fresh air moves gently inside, not as a sudden breeze, but as a quiet presence that blends with the warmth already there. She stands at the doorway, not stepping out, simply observing the world beyond. Outside remains calm, distant, and untouched by the slow rhythm within these walls. After a moment, she steps back slightly, her hand still resting on the edge of the door. The light stretches further across the wooden floor, touching the legs of the table and the cooling loaves behind her. Nothing feels disrupted. The calm remains unbroken. She slowly begins to close the door again, not fully, leaving it slightly open, as if allowing the connection between inside and outside to remain soft and gentle. The bakery holds its stillness, while the quiet flow of the day continues, steady and unhurried. She leaves the door slightly open and turns back toward the center of the bakery, her movements as calm and steady as before. The soft line of light from outside remains, stretching quietly across the floor, blending with the warm tones of the room. She walks slowly past the table, her gaze resting briefly on the loaves, now cooling in silence. There is no need to touch them, no need to adjust anything. Everything has already found its place. She continues to the wooden stool and gently sits down once more, her posture relaxed, her hands resting loosely. The faint warmth in the air lingers, though softer now, less pronounced than before. The quiet remains unchanged, undisturbed by the open door or the passing of time. She takes a slow breath, letting it settle deep within her, then releases it just as gently. The moment continues, unbroken and still, holding everything in a calm that feels steady and complete. She sits quietly, her gaze soft and unfocused, resting somewhere between the open door and the table of cooling bread. The light entering from outside remains gentle, never harsh, spreading calmly across the wooden floor. Nothing draws her attention away. Nothing asks her to move. The loaves continue to cool in silence, releasing a faint warmth that slowly fades into the still air. The oven, once central, now rests quietly in the background, its work complete. She remains still, her breathing slow and even, blending into the calm rhythm of the space. Time passes, though it leaves no mark, no sense of urgency or change. The open doorway allows the outside world to exist alongside the quiet within, without disturbing it. Everything feels balanced, steady, and at rest. She lowers her gaze slightly, settling deeper into the stillness as the peaceful flow of the moment continues without interruption. After a long and quiet stillness, she slowly lifts her head, her eyes adjusting softly to the steady light that fills the bakery. Nothing has changed, yet everything feels gently complete. She rises from the stool with the same calm presence, her movements slow and natural. Walking toward the table, she pauses beside the loaves, now fully cooled, their warmth only faintly remaining. She places her hand lightly near them, not touching, only acknowledging their presence. The open door behind her allows a soft current of fresh air to move gently through the room, blending with the quiet that has never left. She takes a slow breath, deeper this time, as if marking the quiet end of her work. There is no rush to leave, no urgency to begin something new. Everything remains steady, balanced, and complete. The moment lingers softly, holding its calm as she stands there, present within the peaceful stillness that continues without end. She gently reaches for one of the loaves, lifting it slowly with both hands. Its surface is firm, yet soft, carrying a quiet weight that feels balanced and complete. She does not break it or cut into it. Instead, she simply holds it for a moment, feeling its presence, its warmth now faded into a gentle neutrality. The texture beneath her fingers tells the story of time, patience, and steady care. After a quiet pause, she places it back onto the table, returning it to its place among the others. Nothing feels rushed, not even this final act. The open door continues to let in a soft stream of light and air, blending seamlessly with the stillness inside. She steps back again, her hands resting calmly at her sides. The bakery remains unchanged, holding the same peaceful rhythm. Everything that needed to happen has already happened, and what remains is a quiet, steady sense of completion. She slowly walks along the length of the table, her fingers brushing lightly against the wooden edge as she passes each loaf. There is no need to adjust them now, no need to check or change anything. Everything rests exactly as it should. The quiet presence of the bread fills the room, not with scent alone, but with a sense of calm completion. She reaches the end of the table and pauses, her hand resting still, her posture relaxed. The open door continues to let in a gentle flow of air, carrying a faint sense of the outside world without disturbing the peace within. She turns slightly, looking across the bakery once more, not searching, not thinking ahead, simply observing what is already there. The light remains soft and even, the air still and warm. Time continues forward, but it feels distant, almost unimportant, as the quiet rhythm holds everything steady and at rest. She slowly turns away from the table and walks back toward the center of the bakery, her movements as soft and unhurried as they have always been. The space feels unchanged, yet there is a quiet sense of completion resting in every corner. The loaves sit undisturbed behind her, the oven now silent, its warmth fading gently into the still air. She pauses in the middle of the room, her hands resting loosely by her sides, her breathing slow and even. The open door allows the outside light to remain, stretching calmly across the floor without shifting. Nothing calls her attention. Nothing needs to be done. She simply stands there, present in the moment, allowing the calm to settle deeper. Time passes quietly, without urgency, without weight. Everything has reached its natural end, and what remains is a soft stillness, steady and unbroken, holding her gently within it as the quiet rhythm continues to flow. She slowly walks back toward the wooden stool, her steps light and steady, as if guided by a rhythm that no longer needs effort to follow. The bakery remains wrapped in the same quiet stillness, unchanged and undisturbed. She sits down gently, her posture relaxed, her hands resting softly in her lap. The open door continues to allow a soft stream of light and air to enter, blending naturally with the calm inside. The loaves rest behind her, untouched, cooling in silence. The oven stands quiet now, its presence softened, no longer active but still part of the space. She lowers her gaze slightly, not out of fatigue but in a quiet moment of rest. Nothing feels unfinished. Nothing calls her to move. The air remains warm yet gentle, the light steady and soft. Time continues its quiet passage, but here, in this moment, everything feels still, complete, and peacefully at rest. She remains seated on the stool, her presence quiet and steady, as if the entire morning has gently settled within her. The bakery holds a deep stillness now, not just in its space, but in its feeling. Everything complete, everything at rest. The soft light from the open door stretches across the floor and reaches the legs of the table, touching the loaves without changing them. Nothing moves quickly. Nothing demands attention. Her breathing remains slow and even, rising and falling in a calm rhythm that blends with the silence. She does not look toward anything in particular, her gaze soft, her awareness simply present. The warmth in the room has softened further, becoming gentle and subtle. Even the faint sounds have faded, leaving only a quiet sense of being. Time continues to pass, but without weight or urgency. In this moment, everything remains exactly as it is, still, balanced, and quietly complete. After a long, quiet stillness, she gently lifts her head again, her eyes open but soft, carrying no urgency. The bakery remains unchanged, wrapped in the same calm that has held it since the beginning. She slowly rises from the stool, her movements smooth and unbroken, as if guided by the quiet rhythm that continues to flow through the space. She takes a few slow steps forward, pausing near the center of the room. The open door still allows a soft light to rest across the wooden floor. while the loaves remain untouched on the table behind her. She does not turn to look at them. There is no need. Everything has already settled into its final state. She stands there for a moment, her hands relaxed at her sides, her breathing even and steady. Nothing calls her forward, nothing pulls her back. The moment continues quietly, holding her within its calm as time moves gently on without disturbance. She turns slowly toward the table once more, her movement soft and natural, as if guided by a quiet instinct rather than thought. The loaves remain where they were, settled and still, their presence now part of the calm rather than the focus of it. She walks closer, stopping just beside them, her gaze resting gently across their surfaces. There is no need to touch, no need to adjust. Everything has already reached its place. The light from the open door continues to fall across the table, soft and even, blending with the quiet atmosphere. She stands there for a moment, her hands resting loosely, her posture relaxed. The air carries a faint trace of warmth, though it has softened into something almost unnoticeable. Nothing changes, nothing shifts. The moment holds steady, unbroken, as time moves quietly forward, allowing everything to remain exactly as it is, calm, balanced, and complete. She slowly steps away from the table again, her movement light and unhurried, as if nothing in the world requires speed anymore. The loaves remain behind her, settled into their quiet stillness, no longer changing, only existing. She walks toward the open door, stopping just before it, where the soft line between inside and outside rests. The air feels slightly cooler here, brushing gently against her skin, blending with the warmth that still lingers within the bakery. She does not step outside. Instead, she stands at the threshold, her presence balanced between two spaces. Her breathing remains slow and even, her posture relaxed, her gaze calm. Nothing calls her forward, nothing pulls her back. The moment stretches gently, holding both the quiet interior and the waking world beyond in a soft, seamless connection. Time continues to move, but here, it feels distant, softened, allowing everything to remain calm, steady, and quietly complete. She remains standing at the doorway, her presence quiet and unmoving, as if time itself has chosen to pause around her. The soft light from outside continues to stretch gently into the bakery, meeting the stillness within without disturbing it. Behind her, the loaves rest in silence, their warmth now almost completely faded, becoming part of the calm atmosphere rather than standing apart from it. She does not turn to look back. There is no need. Everything behind her has already settled into its final state. Her gaze remains forward, though not fixed on anything in particular, simply open and aware. A faint breath moves through her, slow and steady, matching the quiet rhythm that has carried the entire morning. Nothing changes, nothing needs to. The moment holds itself fully, balanced between inside and outside, between action and rest, as time continues to move softly, without urgency, without end. After standing there for a long, quiet moment, she gently shifts her weight and takes a small step back from the doorway. The movement is soft, almost unnoticeable, yet it brings her fully back into the stillness of the bakery. The open door remains as it is, allowing the outside light and air to continue blending with the calm inside. She does not close it. Instead, she turns slowly, her gaze moving across the room once more. The table, the loaves, the quiet walls, everything rests in the same peaceful state. Nothing calls for attention, nothing requires change. She takes another slow breath, deep and even, then lets it go gently. Her hands rest loosely at her sides, her posture relaxed. The warmth has softened into something faint, the silence deep and complete. Time continues forward, yet it feels distant, almost untouched, as the quiet rhythm holds everything steady in a calm that remains unbroken. She walks slowly back toward the center of the bakery, her steps soft and steady, as if guided only by the quiet rhythm that has never left the space. The open door remains behind her, allowing a gentle presence of the outside to linger without interruption. She pauses midway, her gaze resting calmly across the room, taking in everything without focus or intention. The loaves sit quietly on the table. The oven rests in silence, and the light remains soft and even. Nothing draws her forward. Nothing pulls her back. She stands there, breathing slowly, evenly, her presence blending seamlessly into the stillness around her. There is no sense of beginning or ending now, only a quiet continuation. Time passes, but it feels distant, softened, almost weightless. The bakery holds its calm, unchanged and complete, as she remains within it, still and present, allowing the peaceful rhythm to carry on without disturbance. She remains standing in the center of the bakery, her posture relaxed, her presence steady and calm. The stillness around her feels deeper now, as if it has settled fully into every corner of the space. The open door continues to allow a soft connection to the outside world, though it never disturbs the quiet within. She slowly turns her head, her gaze moving gently across the room, not searching, not focusing, simply observing what already exists. The loaves rest undisturbed, the table holds its quiet form, and the air remains soft and unmoving. She takes a slow breath, allowing it to fill her completely, then releases it, just as gently. Nothing shifts, nothing changes. The moment continues as it is, steady and unbroken. Time feels distant, almost absent, leaving only this calm presence behind. She stands there without intention, without need, simply existing within the peaceful rhythm that carries everything forward in silence. After a quiet stretch of stillness, she slowly lowers herself back onto the wooden stool, her movements smooth and unhurried. The bakery remains unchanged, wrapped in the same calm that has carried through every moment. She rests her hands gently in her lap, her fingers relaxed, her posture soft. The open door allows a faint, steady flow of air to pass through, barely noticeable, blending into the quiet. The loaves remain untouched, settled into their final state, no longer changing, only present. The light rests evenly across the room, neither growing nor fading. She closes her eyes briefly, not in sleep, but in a quiet rest that asks for nothing. Her breathing remains slow and steady, matching the gentle rhythm of the space. Nothing calls her to move, nothing asks for attention. The moment continues, soft and unbroken, as time drifts forward without urgency, leaving everything calm, balanced, and quietly complete. She slowly opens her eyes again, not because anything has changed, but as a natural continuation of the quiet rhythm she has been part of all along. The bakery remains still, wrapped in the same soft calm, untouched by time. She does not move immediately. Instead, she sits for a moment longer, her gaze gentle and unfocused, allowing the silence to remain complete. The open door continues to let in a faint trace of fresh air, blending with the warmth that now feels distant and soft. The loaves rest behind her, unchanged, settled fully into their presence. After a quiet pause, she rises once more from the stool, her movements slow and fluid. She stands in the center of the room, her hands resting lightly at her sides, her breathing steady and calm. Nothing calls her forward, Nothing holds her back. The moment continues as it is, still, balanced, and quietly unfolding without end. She stands quietly in the center of the bakery, her presence calm and grounded, as if the stillness has become a part of her. The light remains soft and even, resting gently across the wooden floor and walls. The open door allows a faint connection to the outside, though nothing from beyond enters with urgency. She slowly turns her gaze toward the table once more, not to check or change anything, but simply to acknowledge what is there. The loaves remain undisturbed, their presence now fully settled into the quiet space. She takes a slow step forward, then pauses again, her movement guided only by the gentle flow of the moment. Her breathing is steady, her hands relaxed, her posture at ease. Nothing feels incomplete, nothing asks for attention. Time continues quietly, without pressure or demand. The bakery holds its calm, unchanged and whole, as she remains within it, present and still. She slowly walks toward the table once again, her steps quiet and measured, as if carried by the same gentle rhythm that has filled the entire morning. The loaves rest exactly where they were, untouched and still, their presence now fully part of the calm atmosphere. She stops beside them, her gaze soft, her attention light, not focused on any single detail. She does not reach out this time. Instead, she simply stands there, allowing the moment to exist without interruption. The open door behind her continues to let in a faint, steady flow of air, blending seamlessly with the stillness inside. The light remains soft and even, resting gently across every surface. She takes a slow breath, then releases it quietly, her posture relaxed. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to. The bakery remains as it is, calm, steady, and complete, while time continues its soft, unhurried passage forward. She remains beside the table, her presence quiet and unchanging, as if she has become part of the stillness itself. The bakery holds its calm without effort, every surface resting in soft balance. She gently shifts her weight from one foot to the other, a small movement that does not disturb the silence. Her gaze drifts across the room once more, not searching, not thinking, simply observing what already is. The open door continues to frame the outside world without inviting it in. The light remains steady, touching the floor and walls with the same gentle tone. She takes another slow breath, feeling it rise and fall naturally, without intention. The loaves remain behind her, unchanged, complete in their quiet form. Nothing moves forward, nothing falls behind. The moment stretches softly, unbroken and calm, as she stands within it, present and at ease, carried gently by the quiet passage of time. She slowly turns her head toward the doorway, not out of curiosity, but as part of the quiet flow of the moment. The outside remains softly lit, unchanged and distant, like a gentle backdrop to the stillness within. She does not move closer, only lets her gaze rest there for a few seconds before it drifts back into the room. The air feels balanced, neither warm nor cool, settling evenly around her. Her hands remain relaxed at her sides, her shoulders loose, her breathing slow and steady. The bakery continues to exist in perfect calm, with nothing calling for attention and nothing needing to be done. Even the faint sounds from outside seem softened, blending into the silence rather than breaking it. She blinks once, unhurried, then stands just as before, quiet, present, and still, as the soft rhythm of time carries everything gently forward without change. She remains where she is, her presence as steady as the quiet space around her. Nothing asks for movement, and so she does not move. the soft light continues to rest across the floor, unchanged, like a gentle reminder that time is passing without urgency. Her breathing stays slow and even, each inhale and exhale blending seamlessly into the stillness. She lowers her gaze slightly, not focusing on anything in particular, just letting her awareness settle. The shelves, the table, the open doorway, all remain exactly as they were, undisturbed and complete. There's no beginning here, no ending, only a calm continuation. She shifts her fingers just slightly, a barely noticeable motion, then becomes still again. The moment holds her gently, without weight, without expectation. Everything remains quiet, balanced, and at rest as she stands within it, present, peaceful, and carried softly by the endless, unbroken flow of time. She stands as she has been, unchanged and unhurried, as though the passing of time has gently paused around her. The soft light still rests across the room, neither fading nor growing, simply existing in quiet balance. Her breathing continues in a calm, steady rhythm, so natural it almost disappears into the silence. She lifts her gaze slightly, not searching, only allowing it to settle wherever it may. Nothing in the bakery has shifted. Every surface, every shadow remains in its place, holding the same quiet harmony. A faint sense of stillness deepens, wrapping around her like a soft, invisible layer. She does not resist it, nor does she lean into it. She simply exists within it. Her posture remains relaxed, her expression gentle and neutral. The moment stretches without effort, without direction, flowing forward without change, as she remains there, quiet, grounded, and fully present in the calm that continues endlessly.